bit of shit on the lens. Good morning, folks. When I moved Nibbler the other day, I noticed when I pulled the clutch in there was a noise, like something was hitting the clutch cover. Poiskinally, because he's literally been stood since God knows when. He's been stood a long time. He's been stood for most of last year while I was pissing around doing the sump and the ZX 1100 exhaust and various other little jobs that were niggling me. So he's not moved a lot, and these can suffer from sticky clutch plates when they're left. Beverage today I have coffee flavoured with cinnamon syrup, because I don't like plain coffee. Well, I say I don't like it, I prefer a flavoured one. So the plan today is I'm going to take the side panel off and take the clutch cover off on the side stand, and it won't really lose any oil, just to investigate what's going on. I think it's stuck clutch plates, because I did notice when I warmed the bike up for 10-15 minutes the noise actually disappeared, but obviously it's sitting on its side stand all the while. I haven't got a main stand on it, which I may refit later. It's over there painted ready to go on. Or I might not. If I need the back wheel up, I've got paddock stand. But I just want to investigate it. Probably just take the clutch plates out and put them back in again, so they've all been separated. And then I'm going to go from there. So I'm going to take the side panel off, and then I will bring you back. Yes, going down. Look at that. Look, it's almost poetic. Look at that. First of all, women's lingerie and cookware. Okay, the good thing is there's no damage inside the casing, so I don't know, investigation continues. Right, you'll probably notice I've taken the chain adjuster off. Now, I fitted the Compton Customs chain tensioner mod, which gives the tensioner blade a limited amount of movement to stop the tensioner blade from hitting the clutch basket, which is a known problem on GPZ derived engines. The funny thing is, I think it's the back of the tensioner has been very, very, very slightly catching the outer plate. Yeah, I think so. So what I'm going to do is to put a couple of very, very thin washers there, because we don't want to misalign the blade. There is wiggle room there. I think that'll do it. It's literally, I think it's literally only just catching. I think the thinnest of thin washers will stop it, and I think that's what the noise was. But funny enough, it went away when the bite was warm. So a bit of a puzzler, that one, but I think that's what's happened. I knew I'd make a mess. I've put the thinnest of thin washers I can find behind the chain tensioner, and it's giving it the clearance that it's no longer hitting the clutch basket. So the only other option is, let me take you out the stand of love, is you can see how close it was. The tensioner's been hitting the very edge there. If you've got one of these tensioners and it starts doing that, what I would suggest is to actually take a little bit off the tensioner with a file or a grinder or something like that. That won't affect operation at all. So I'm going to put it back together, and what I'm going to do, when I was messing around with the fuel pump and all that lot and put the gravity line in, I had a sticky needle in the carburettor, and I noticed when I took the cover off, the oil, it smelt a bit petrol-y, so I'm not going to risk it. I'm going to change the oil, because I accidentally left the fuel tap on for like 3 weeks, something like that. So before I ride it or anything like that, it'll be alright just to run the bike for a couple of minutes, but I don't want to do that because I don't know how much the oil's diluted. It doesn't look that bad, but it smells quite bad, and I don't want to risk spinning a bearing or anything like that. So I will be changing the oil and the filter before it does anything, so I'll order those this week. But I'm happy now. I think that's fixed it. So that's it for this short one, guys. Thanks for coming along. If it was any use to you, consider a like, a share and subscribe, because it all helps promote the channel. And if you want to buy me a coffee or anything like that, links are in the description. Thanks very much, guys. Have fun. Goodbye. Oh yes, while we're on the subject of tinkerage, I have a confession to make about Phyllis. As many of you actually know, and as Uncle, wait for it, Sexy Steve, oh, you wouldn't want to meet that in a dark alley, would you? Or a well-lit one. Pointed out the other day that obviously I was filming a brake job on Phyllis, and he said, well, I thought you bought a new caliper. And yes, I did buy a new caliper, and the caliper looked exactly the same. It is the correct caliper. It's absolutely correct. Suzuki Bergman K9s use the same brakes as well. So if you struggle, if you've got an address like this and you struggle to find parts, brake parts, anything like that, look at Bergman K9s and stuff like that. You'll find everything. Also, the other name for this in a lot of other countries is the Shogun, the Suzuki Shogun, and they did a 110, a 125 and all this lot. Engine parts and all that lot are all the same, except the Shogun has a clutch and traditional like motorcycle clutch, which this doesn't, because it's a spinny grabby one. Correct word here. Correct word. So yeah, confession time, 100% honesty and clarity. I did buy the caliper, and very good it was too, really well made. Apart from, I don't like the Chinese banjo bolts and Chinese crush washers, because they tend to have rubber in them, the crush washers, so they tend to seal as a rubber seal, and I don't trust it. I've had issues with Chinese brake line before. I bought a remote reservoir for the GS, bled all the brakes, it was fine, it worked perfectly, but then when I came to the bike a couple of days afterwards, the brake line looked like it was sweating, and this shed does get condensation. And I thought, oh, it's just condensation, and it wasn't. The brake line was fucking porous. That's lethal. So, yes, I'd steer away from Chinese remote reservoirs and stuff now, but the caliper looked really good. It had 5-star ratings and stuff like that. It's a common caliper also used on Suzuki dirt bikes, RZs and stuff like that. I've got the body of it somewhere. Have you, Jim? Well, I did have. I've mislaid it. Anyway, the quality of the casting of the actual caliper and stuff is really good. Really, really good. The pistons beautifully machined, stuff like that. So, yeah, I fucked up. It said left and right handed on the listings, and in my, let's say, impatience, because I am impatient, if there's a part I want or anything like that, I'm very impatient. But yeah, the centre left hand side caliper, I need a right hand caliper. Peace out. I better just add this little bit. I'm cooking sausages, I'm going to have sausage cough. Jim, get to the fucking point, you're always waffling. I better just add this little bit for legal clarity. Not that I think anybody would bite my arse, but the clutch problem I had with Nibbler was it was making a I enjoyed that, I might do that again. Noise when you pulled the clutch in. Now I thought it was clutch plate sticking or something like that because the bike's been stood. So it turns out that the Compton alternator chain adjuster, whatever you call it, starter chain tensioner mod that I fitted was very, very slightly just hitting the outer plate on the clutch. It's barely marked the tensioner, barely marked it at all. I mean, you wouldn't even have to probably take a thou off it and it'd clear it. So what I think has happened is I put a new clutch in Nibbler, and when I first installed it, I got one of the plates in the wrong orientation, and somebody actually pointed it out, but it's all as it should be. I'm wondering if the cork in the plates, while it's been sitting, has just swollen slightly, or the plates that I bought are just that little tiny bit out of spec, and as you build the pack up and they've swollen with the oil, that it's just enough to bring that plate out just a tiny bit more than it should. Now what I've done in the meantime is I've just put 2 of the thinnest of thin washers behind the tensioner, and it's clear now. I think that's what's happened. Possibly the cork on the clutch plates has just swelled slightly. The problem is in no way with the James Compton Racing tensioner. I thought I'd clear that up because a lot of you have fitted them and I don't want you to panic. I think my problem is it's those clutch plates, and I think that's what it is. That's all I can give you really, but I did want to state that in no way is that problem that James Compton tensioner. It works beautifully. It's a brilliantly engineered bit of kit, so I just wanted to clear that up. So thanks guys, yeah, that's it, but I needed to get that off my chest.